to save some money? We've got detailed hacks on all forms of travel. Hi guys, it's Tim and Kathy with Taste Life with Us, and we're coming to you from Cambodia.
Yes, we are. We travel full time. We sold everything we own. And so we book a lot of travel, and we have developed some money saving skills, haven't we?
I believe we have.
We want to share them with you because we want you to become a max value traveler. That's how we think of ourselves.
Yeah.
We are on a budget of about $4,000 a month or so.
But are we budget travelers?
We are not budget travelers.
In fact, we tend to be over budget travelers, to be honest.
Yes, sometimes, because we're not really scrimping that much. I mean, we are traveling the way we've pretty much always traveled. We're not luxury travelers or budget travelers. We are mid-range travelers who are getting the most for our money.
Question number one, is this all about using points?
No, it's not. I mean, we are going to talk about points because points are a really important strategy for saving money. And in fact, even before we traveled, we hardly ever paid for hotels or airfare. And that was before I started getting into points and really learning the strategy.
Absolutely.
We only had like a couple of cards, and we just charged everything on those, and we stayed at that hotel and flew that airline.
And credit cards, I'm not a big fan. So if you're going to charge stuff, make sure you just pay it all off.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
You don't want to go into debt. This is just a tool. This is not a financing option. We've got lots for you. We are going to talk about flights. We're going to talk about other forms of transportation. We're going to talk about accommodations and some extra little tips there. And then at the end, I'm going to teach you how to stack all of these discount ideas together to get the maximum value for your pennies.
Right. And again, make sure you read the fine print on everything you do, right?
Right, because everything you do has some kind of conditions or maximums or minimums or, certain ways you have to log in order to get the discount. So yeah, read the fine print, make sure you know what you're doing, know your cancellation windows, try not to have things that are not cancelable.
So as all of that comes up, every time I have looked at booking flight, let's face it, I don't do a lot of it. But when I do look at hotels and booking flights and travel, one of the big things that always comes up for me is, do I want to buy the insurance?
Right, well, that's one of the things that comes up in the fine print when you're booking things. When you are booking a flight or a hotel or any of those things, usually a little box comes up. Do you want to add insurance? It's only this much. And they kind of make it feel like you have to do it. You don't have to do it. If you're booking a vacation and something goes wrong, let's say you can't take the vacation or you have things go terribly wrong with the initial flight and you can't get to, say, your cruise or your hotel or your resort. That's like this domino effect that happens. When things go wrong, they go really wrong. And we've had this happen.
So if we don't buy the insurance, how do we protect ourselves?
Right. Okay. So if you're buying insurance piecemeal on, say, just your flight, that's not covering your hotel. That's not covering your cruise if something goes wrong with your flight. And it's going to really add up if you try to book every insurance separately. Plus, then you'd have to file 3 different claims. And believe me, we've had some claims, and they're an ordeal. So what you want to do is buy one insurance policy to cover your whole trip. If you travel full-time like us, you're going to want some Nomad insurance. We'll pop up our website there. We've got a page that explains it all. If you're traveling for a vacation, maybe go to insuremytrip.com. It'll give you a whole bunch of different policies to compare and see what's right for you. But put in the cost for your entire trip, all that you're doing, so that you're covered for the whole thing. Right. The other thing is sometimes you're covered on your credit card. You don't even need insurance. Not at all. If you have a good credit card, a Chase Sapphire card, an American Express Gold card, an IHG card, most of these credit cards and a lot of other ones have trip cancellation, trip delay. Those Chase cards I just mentioned, those even have evacuation insurance, like if you're on a cruise. So that might be enough for you. You're gonna have to look at the policies and decide for yourself. Don't go by what I say, but look for yourself.
Slight disclaimer I'm gonna throw in right here. We're not making any money on this.
That's a fact.
Yes.
We're not even monetized on YouTube. We're not even making money on the video. But we also we're completely unbiased here. We're not giving you credit card links. If you want one, ask us. If we have that card, we'll give you a link, we'll make some points, and you'll still get the same deal. But we don't have these websites to send you to with all of our credit card things so that we benefit off it. We're not benefiting off referring you to booking platforms, nothing like that. You're just going there straight. This is not about us. This is about you saving money. And these are the ways we do it. We use all the things we're telling you about. And we want you to just save money, you don't have to support us.
However, if you'd like to buy me a coffee,
there is this thing called Buy Me a Coffee that some of our friends have, and we could add it, but...
do you think we could change it to buy me a beer?
Buy me a wine? I'd rather have a glass of wine. I
Let's
like
try.
Coffee, but I'd rather have a glass of wine.
Okay,
Not sure how that works, but down below, we'll put a referral to Buy Me a Coffee if we have Buy Me a Coffee by then. Yeah, if you're grateful, sure, buy us a coffee. Glass of wine. Okay, anyways, we just want you to be able to live your dreams the way we do. So
let's do it.
Let's do it.
So how do we deal with this whole thing about prices changing on me? I mean, again, when I look something up one day, it's one price, and then the next day it's a whole different price.
Yeah, most airlines and some hotels even use what's called dynamic pricing. So the bigger the demand is, the higher the price goes. If there's not much demand, it comes down. Now, you'll hear people say, go incognito on the internet on certain days. Honestly, they've proven that none of those things really matter. Not saying you can't try them, you can. But if the price is going up, it's probably not just because of you. You're just one teeny tiny piece of this giant puzzle that's driving the prices on that
But I'm
flight.
special. I am special. It's all about me.
So let's say you have checked the price on that flight 200 times. Maybe it is you, I don't know. Just saying, if the price is going up, you might want to hold off and book a different day. And in fact, on Google Flights, we'll talk about this later, but in the sense of flights, Google Flights will tell you if that is higher or lower than the normal price. Now, it's a little harder to tell when you're dealing with points or if you're dealing with hotels, but look around. You want to compare. You're not just using one booking site. You're comparing a lot of different booking sites, and the price is going to change differently on different sites for some things.
That explains part of my problem. I thought we'd just use one at a time and do everything on one.
No. I use a lot of different sites. I try to book airlines straight on their own website, but I will use other places just to get an idea, because sometimes there's a better deal out there and I need to know what to look for and how to find it. As far as hotels go, sure, you're looking for deals on the hotel sites, but you're also looking at like booking.com, hotels.com, different, whatever you like, Expedia, and you're comparing these because they don't have the same things on special at the same time.
So if we're looking at all of this stuff and we're seeing that price is just ticking on up,
I would hold off a little bit of time and see what happens. Maybe it's just dynamic pricing. Maybe a sale will come along. You don't want to be so up against the wall that you don't have time to be flexible. Okay,
so we want to plan a little bit ahead, and we also want to check back frequently. Is that right?
Right, you do want to check back frequently. Now, here is a really important strategy to use. It's called book and cancel and rebook. And I will do this even if the prices are high, if I'm positive that I can cancel it with no penalties. So if I just want to kind of lock in dates at the place I want, that I'm willing to pay that if I can't get something better, I will go ahead and lock that in. Now, I'm going to keep checking those prices over and over and over. And if the price goes down, you should book it again for the same dates or the same flight or what have you. Book it again and then cancel the first one.
Don't cancel first.
Yeah, sometimes if you cancel first, you end up losing.
Yeah, that will hurt.
So it's good to book first, then cancel. This is really important with hotels. And it can be important with flights. If you're booking on points, you can probably cancel it pretty easily. And in fact, like on plane flights on points, you can usually cancel those up until almost boarding time. So check the fine print on that, but that's why sometimes we schedule a safety flight. Like in case our other flight, something happens to it, we can have a safety flight on backup so that we can still get to our destination a different way using a different airline, because you know how those things go. Certain airlines,
it's just a bad day.
You're traveling at Christmas, some airline could go down, their whole system. I'm not saying it's ever happened before, but book it on a different airline, book it with points, make sure you have the best chance of getting to where you're going. But you book it after you would already know the other one was in serious trouble, not like a couple hours later, like a lot of hours later.
So you don't book it then, you have it booked to depart then.
Right, I already have a safety flight for
Yeah,
us booked
okay.
because we're traveling to Florida on December 28th and we have to get on a cruise on the 30th. And our flight actually doesn't get in until the 29th because of some factors that were beyond our control. So I have a safety flight booked for the morning of the 29th in case our other one didn't work out.
That's our wedding anniversary.
You do what you got to do to save money.
How would I know if a deal pops up all of a sudden? I mean, yeah, I'm checking back and forth, but those deals, sometimes they're 24-hour things. So how would I know if a deal pops up? Where would I be looking?
Well, first of all, you want to be subscribed to emails for all the loyalty programs that you're part of. You want to be subscribed to emails for like flight deals. I'm going to put on my website like all the different things I use, the different
alerts that come
flight
up.
deal companies that I use on emails, but you can also go to the site and look for something. I just check back periodically, and especially closer to the time. Like I try to book out farther, and then if there's a sale, I'm watching the news, right? Because sometimes there's a sale. There's other things too that trigger it, like brand new routes, whether it's a brand. So I just saw an ad that news article that American Airlines added 8 new Caribbean routes for next winter. When they're brand new routes, they're usually cheaper when they first go up. So you want to watch those things? No, American Airlines.
Wow.
Yeah, so to different islands. So when something new pops up at the news like that, you want to jump on that right away before everybody else does. Go look at the prices and see if there's a great deal. That might be inspiration for your next trip. Now cruises, when a brand new route comes up, those also are on special usually, or when a brand new ship comes out. So sometimes it's good to book a cruise way ahead because the ship hasn't even come out yet. Now, I wouldn't recommend sailing immediately because they often get delayed, but book something a little farther out. We've done this a lot of times and gotten really great deals. So you want to be watching all of those things. Rental cars are an interesting thing. Whether you're booking it and you're going to pay cash, you want to keep your cancellation intact by paying it at the counter. And even if you book it on points, you still want to be able to cancel it and just keep looking at that rate. Rental car rates are all over the place. But sometimes I've even checked it on the plane on the way there and gotten a way better deal. And I could still cancel and rebook. Rebook first, then cancel. Okay, so rental cars, oh my gosh, in Australia, we went from like spending $1,200 on rental cars down to like $264 by rebooking it like 4 different times as the price came down after the pandemic. So definitely check and rebook. Prices change.
Absolutely.
Another place that you can find good deals is Facebook groups, especially if you're looking for points deals or even like hotel chain special offers. There's a lot of Facebook groups that give you really great discussions and posts on all of these things. If you're looking for cruises, you want cruise Facebook groups. If you're looking for hotels and airline points, you want things like FBZ Elite or Daily Drop, or there's a whole bunch of them. I'll put them on the website. But that's a great place to find out up to the minute what's going on and read people's posts. People share a lot of good deals that they're finding and that you can use also. And you can ask questions in Facebook groups like, I'm trying to book a trip to here. What would be a good points deal? Or have you found a great value hotel there? Things like that. You can ask on those groups. If you're a full-time nomad like us, you travel all the time, join the Nomad groups because you can get invaluable information from people there. And in fact, some groups even have like country reports where people just file all their information about staying in a certain place. So be sure to check those things out, and you can find all of those things listed on our website as well. Okay, so also if you know where you're gonna go and you're looking at hotels in that area, check the website of any hotels that you have loyalty with, because sometimes on your special offers page, there is something that can really save you some money. Same thing with cruises. If you check your loyalty page on your cruise, sometimes you can find really great deals there. And I will mention that you don't even have to have ever stayed at this hotel before or on this use this cruise line before. You can sign up for every loyalty program for free and get on their email list and be able to check an offers page. Sometimes you get some great like kind of new person offers, especially on cruise lines. Yeah.
Does it really matter how you pay for the booking?
It does, and there's different strategies for how you pay. You kind of have to decide what you're after. If you're after the travel insurance, you really want to be sure you pay with something that has good travel insurance.
Makes sense.
Now, if you're after points, you want to either use a card that you're working on a sign-up bonus for, because the best way to earn points is to have an initial sign-up bonus on a credit card where you say you have to charge $3,000 in the first 3 months, and then you get this huge chunk of points that you can use for free travel, maybe like $1,000 worth of free travel. So you always want to be working on a sign-up bonus like that, and a trip is a great place because you're dropping a bunch of money on your bookings. You might as well make that money earn you more free travel.
Yeah, so the gist of that is that just using the card to get points isn't really how you build up a lot of points. It's those bonuses that come along that you want to swoop on.
Those are the key.
Yeah.
But you might just be wanting to get points. Maybe you're not trying to do a bunch of points strategy gaining. You're just trying to have one card that you always use, like a Chase Sapphire card is a great solid card to use all the time.
Absolutely.
If you don't want to be paying fees on a credit card, the Build card is something that most people haven't heard of, but it's actually a really great card. There's no annual fee, and it does have some travel protection, like trip cancellation and things. And also, it has great transfer partners. So there's kind of two kinds of cards for points. You can have one that's branded like to the airline you're going to use or to the hotel you're going to use, or you can have more general cards like a Chase Sapphire card or an American Express Gold card or the cheapo Built card that earns points on what you're paying for anyways in life if you just use it on everything. These unbranded cards, you can transfer points to different hotels, to different airlines. And Built is a great one. Built even transfers to Hyatt, which I'll talk about later. But Built also has a couple bonuses that are interesting. Okay, so Built is actually made for, especially for people who rent. You don't have to rent to have a Built card, but if you do rent, you can actually put your rent on your Built card to earn points. That's a huge benefit. We rented for a year before we left on our Nomad life because we had sold our house and we were in the process of selling everything else. And we made a lot of points based on apartment rent. That's a really good deal.
Here's the thing, you're paying rent anyway.
Yeah.
You know, and all you're doing now by using the credit card is paying the credit card, basically, your rent money.
Yeah, and you're getting a little bit of free travel in the form of points.
Yeah.
Future travel. Okay, so also, because it's oriented towards rent, on the first of every month, they have huge bonus amounts of points that you get, especially on travel. And you do have to make like 5 charges a month to actually get all the points that you've earned that month. So you either put it on things that are on like automatic payments, like Netflix or whatever you have, or you put it on like every time you buy fast food. If you charge things on the first of the month, so really try to charge on the first of the month, especially travel if you're putting it on your Built card, because you get a lot more points because you did it on the first of the month.
Right.
So now, if you are more of a credit card person and you're willing to have more than just a card, maybe you have some airline cards. Now, the time you really want to use those airline cards is when you're booking on that airline. And this applies whether you're using points or whether you're booking with money.
Okay.
Because that's usually how you get your free baggage benefit. They're kind of going now towards where most airlines are requiring you to use your credit card to book the flight in order to get free baggage. And free baggage is a big benefit. That's saving you quite a bit of money when you're booking a hotel and when you're charging the charges at your hotel, because usually if you're using that hotel's credit card, they're going to give you a lot more points than a different credit card would give you per dollar. Okay. So you know, if you're getting like 10 times points because you're at Hilton and you're charging Hilton stuff on your Hilton card, that's a lot better than getting 2 times points for charging travel on, say, your Chase Sapphire card. Okay, that's my opinion. Now, when you're paying for something like Airbnb, Booking.com, cruise lines, it can really save you money depending on how you pay. Because, for instance, AARP, the AARP rewards, sometimes you have to have an AARP membership to get some of these, but it's like $12 a year. You can get discounts and get it really cheap, and it's worth it because especially cruise lines, like we charged the Princess Cruise. So we had an $8,000 cruise. I paid for it with gift cards I bought on AARP because they give you 10% off on the gift cards. Like a $500 gift card costs $450. Now, there's some elements that are important to realize about this, and you can go to our Cruise Through Retirement page on our website. I'll plug it up so that you make sure you understand all the factors involved. But this saves a lot of money. That was $800 saved on an $8,000 cruise.
Yeah, and again, there is some fine print there.
If you want to use hotels.com, for instance, you might want to buy a gift card for hotels.com if you can find a discount. For example, right now on Rakuten, Rakuten's an app like Retail Me Not. Rakuten used to be Ebates. So anyways, it's free to sign up on that, and on Retail Me Not, you can go on there and look. And sometimes you can even buy a gift card on there for some different things, but you can also get discounts to like giftcards.com. So if you can get 10% off on giftcards.com, then it's worth it to go to that through one of these sites and then buy your hotels.com or whatever gift card that's not on AARP on that site, and that saves you 10% that way.
Yep.
Airbnb cards, sometimes you can find a discount on them. You can look around for that, but they sell them at Staples. So if you're going to do a lot of Airbnb payments, you might want to go down to Staples with your Chase Business Inc. cash card and use that, because that card has really high points for every dollar you spend at Staples. I think it's five points per dollar at Staples. So you're getting a lot of points, which is, remember, points are free travel. So you might as well earn some while you're paying for your Airbnb. I do that a lot. You don't have to go to Staples either. You can just do it online and they send it to you in an email, the code, and you put the code in Airbnb, and it's super easy.
Let's move on, because we can talk points for hours.
We're not going to talk points all day.
What about transportation? Is it just about flying? Because I know when we travel, we're doing ferries, buses, rental cars, walking, taxis.
Transportation is a complicated thing when you're traveling the whole world. You have to piece it together with whatever works best in a practical sense, and what works best in a cost sense, and what works best in a time sense.
Time is money.
Right. So we're talking about rail travel, bus travel, air travel, sometimes ferry travels are necessary, car travel, whether you want to rent a car. So you're looking at all of these different options. So when you're starting to travel plan, the first thing you need to do is figure out how you're going to get places and how much it's going to cost you. Now, if you want to find out how to even plan your trip in the first place, we have travel planning videos. This is part 3 of the series. Go back to part 1 and part 2, and that will kind of talk you through all of that process. But once you figure out where you might, like what forms of transportation might work best for you, start looking at the pricing. You may find out that if you are flying to this location, it's too expensive. So you have to start thinking about other ways to do it. I use the Google Flights app the most. Lots of people use Skyscanner, Hopper, and those are good. Sometimes I use those too. But Google Flights has a nice everywhere feature. It's called Explore on the main screen. You go to Explore, you can put in, say I'm trying to go from Thailand to Hungary, right? Probably not tons of direct flights there. There might be. If so, they might not be the cheapest thing. I don't know. I've never researched it. But the point being, sometimes it's cheaper to go someplace else first.
True.
You know, it's cheaper to book even a stay so that you're then flying on a different day of the week to get there. So if you use Explore on Google Flights, you can see, if I'm going to this place, where is it taking me through as stopovers? Where am I changing planes? And then you can start taking the trip apart, you know, looking at each of those segments separately. You can start looking at, you know, if it's a multi-hop thing, could I take a train for part of that? Would that cut the cost way down? Could I use different airlines on some of this, because that would cut the cost way down? You can use that everywhere feature by saying, I'm in Bangkok. Where can I go? I could go anywhere. So I'm picking a date, or, you know, whatever flexibility you want to use. And I'm just looking, what is the cheapest flight? You don't have to put in a date, just what's the cheapest flight? So you may find out that, wow, I could go to London really cheap from here. Well, that's a lot closer to Hungary than Thailand is. So maybe now you should look at flights from London. Where could you go from London? Or how much would it be to go to Hungary from London? Oh, well, from London, I can go to this destination really cheaply. Okay, well, let me plug in from the other end. Let me see, from Hungary, where could I go cheaply? Oh, I could go to Germany really cheap. Wow, that's one of the options from London. I can get to Germany really cheap from London too. So can I go from Germany to Hungary? Yeah, it works that direction too. Be careful if the town you're going through has multiple airports, like New York or London or somewhere like that. Bangkok has 2 different airports. Bangkok runs a shuttle between their airports because so many people look into one and look out of the other one. I wouldn't recommend doing it that way. That's just not a hassle you need while you're trying to make your next flight. Unless you maybe have an overnight there, then that's fine. Go in one airport and out the other one. Because when you do search, look at all the airports in that area. Because sometimes one of them really has a deal that the others don't have, and it may not be the one that you thought of or had heard of.
Right.
Now, you do want to be careful because sometimes there's a reason these airports have deals or aren't very commonly heard of. They're way out there. So you have to factor in the cost of getting to where you want to stay for what you want to see. So factor in those transportation costs for sure, because they can add up if you're like an hour away from town.
Remember that old saying, location, location, location.
Just take a train that's cheap, the last leg. That might be an option. So you're kind of looking at piecing this together in the cheapest way possible.
Okay, what about renting a car?
Sometimes renting a car is a great deal. But you probably want to use round trip from the same location you rented it. That saves a lot of money.
Okay.
You don't have to, but try to figure that out. Another thing is leasing a car. If you're in Europe, sometimes if you're going to be there for a long time, you can actually lease a car and it comes with insurance and everything, and it's cheaper than renting.
Okay. So I can see where that would be beneficial for us long-time travelers, but if you're just doing a vacation, maybe not.
Yeah. Another option is a repositioning cruise.
Okay.
We do that if you've got a lot of time on your hands. You can get a cruise over to Europe for about the same, sometimes for about the same as a flight. And you just got 14 days full of meals and entertainment and everything for what you would have paid for your flight. So if you have enough time, that may be an option that's cheaper for you when you look at the cost of the days. Because if you're, you get to London in one day, but now you've got 2 weeks of hotels and meals to pay for, right? How much was that flight plus those 2 weeks of hotels and meals? Maybe it's cheaper to just take a repositioning cruise for 2 weeks to get there. And it's like a bonus vacation.
Yeah, and we actually did that. We've done the Trans-Pacific now. We're doing it back to the United States when we head back. So it does work out to be cost effective sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we talk more about flights, because there's a lot more to talk about, let's talk about the simplest aspect. How the heck do you get to the airport and from the airport?
All right, so you've got options, especially in larger areas, you've got rideshare options. Although more and more airports are not allowing rideshares at the airport. So sometimes you have to walk a really long ways to get to the rideshare. We've had that happen, haven't we?
Yes, we have.
And for instance, we're on our way to Koh Samui, Thailand. They don't allow rideshares at the airport. So while Grab might be a great way to get around the island, it's not a great way to get to the hotel from the airport. We could take a taxi, or we could book a transfer through our hotel. But first, well, we did price that out. First, we looked on Klook. Klook is a website. There's a lot of them like this that have a lot of different tours and tickets and airport transfers. And we saved about half the cost by buying an airport transfer on Klook instead of through the hotel. And it's just the same. Somebody's going to meet you there with a sign with your name on it. It's really easy. And you could pay on the app that way instead of worrying about the cash when you just got into the country. So by the way, we are going to have the next segment in this travel series is on how to smoothly travel, especially to a different country. And it's going to talk a lot about this, arriving with no cell phone and no cash. So make sure you subscribe so you can see the next one as well. Okay, so that's a good way to get to and from airports.
All right. Is public transportation?
Well, that's always an option also. And in fact, when we were just in Bangkok a couple weeks ago, there was a bus that left pretty much right from the airport and went almost exactly to our hotel. So that cost us $1.87 for both of us instead of about $50, I think it was going to be, if we wanted to get like a cab or something like that. When you're in a location too and you're trying to get around, another thing to think about if you're using rideshare is to check your credit cards, because several of our credit cards have deals where you get like a certain amount of credit per month back on Uber or on Lyft. Ours has a deal on Lyft where you get a whole bunch of benefits because you get Lyft Pink, and that includes you always get the closest car, and you don't have to pay extra to get the closest car. So there's different things for different credit cards. Look and see how you can score big on different things like that. In fact, Uber Eats even.
I get a lot of emails about discounts from.
Yeah, Uber Eats, you can get some really good discounts too. Even from having Amazon Prime, you can get free delivery on Uber Eats now. So there's, a lot of discounts out there. You just have to keep staying aware of them.
You got to look in that fine print because a lot of these discounts, they're not flashing them out there.
Yeah, you've got to look at the benefits and then click that more button so the rest of the benefits come up. Because some of the littler ones are the most valuable to you for your own life.
When booking, should you use credit card?
There's nothing wrong with that, but I'm going to give you a couple warnings. Number one, sometimes those prices are higher than if you book directly with the airlines.
Okay.
Sometimes you can get a discount if you're booking airlines on like Expedia or aggregator sites like that. I just use all of those things as tools to find out about the cheapest flights, but I always book it through the airline. And that's why I also don't use credit card portals hardly ever for airline flights, because if you have a problem, it's really hard to get service from these travel agency type services. You can't really handle that on the ground yourself at the airport. So I like to book straight with an airline. That way it gives me a lot more flexibility in dealing with the problem on the ground in the airport. Also, when you are using points on an airline, you do want to maximize how you're using those points. You don't want to book a free flight that has huge taxes and fees. Sometimes these flights in Europe, because of the taxes and fees, you could be paying almost as much as you would have if you would have booked the flight, because almost all of it is taxes and fees. So you want to watch out for that. The other thing is, if you're booking short hopper flights, you don't want to waste your points on little things like that. You want to use your points on something that's expensive, not something that's cheap. So I pay cash for cheap flights. And you might have to pay cash for some flights too, because there's a lot of things like here in Asia, airlines that we cannot use points on. They're kind of local, regional airlines that aren't part of alliances. And, we haven't flown on them, and we're not going to fly on them so much that we earn a ton of points.
Right.
So
it's not worth the effort.
Those are the ones you pay cash on. If you're going to book a points seat on an airline, do try to book that as early as you can. I try to book it literally the day that they allow you to on that airline, because that's when your biggest choice of available point seats is going to be, especially if you're trying to get a higher level seat. We only fly economy because we got to stretch our stuff as far as it can go, because we travel all the time. But if we had a great deal, we would take something better, of course, because we like luxury. But anyways, you have a bigger choice in what you're getting and a chance of getting it if you book early.
So what if we're not going to use points at all? We're just going to come straight out and get the flight.
Okay, there's still ways to save money. For example, these are related to credit cards, but not points. These two. So if you have a Southwest credit card, you can get a companion pass that is good for a year. If you time it right, more than a year. Sometimes these come up as part of a sign-on bonus for getting the credit card. Usually you have to charge quite a bit of money. So if that's not for you, don't do it that way. Another companion pass, there's multiple ones with companion passes, but we get a companion pass on Alaska Airlines because of credit cards that we have and a much smaller spend. And this is really valuable to us. Even though Alaska is mostly in the US, we do come back to see our family. And they're spread out all over the US. On Alaska, you can book your companion pass with multiple stopovers.
That's all one flight.
Yeah, well, it's all one ticket. We're only paying $122 for Tim's ticket. We're just paying the fare for my ticket. So those are different legs. We're staying like a week or longer in each place. In fact, from Florida back to Fresno, we're going to be down in Florida for like 6 weeks before we come back. So you can use these multi-stop tickets on Alaska. Even if you don't have a companion pass, you might want to compare it. If you have a lot of travel and you're kind of going in a circle, compare that price and see. If you have a companion pass, you're saving a lot of money. A lot of these don't really go outside of the US very much. And you can't use them on like co-branded flights. You have to use them on exactly that airline's flight. Another way we save money is we almost always travel midweek. So we usually stay about a week to a month at a place, and we try to always travel on a Tuesday or Wednesday. because although it doesn't matter as much what day it is when you're booking the flight, like you're physically finding it and paying for it, it does matter what day you're flying. That's where you save money, what day you're flying. And you can use like these search engines like Google Search, Skyscanner, etc., to pull up a calendar view and see which day of the week is cheapest to fly. You can also pull up a grid view that shows which is actually my best combination of the date I fly to my destination and the date I return. So before you get too locked into things like hotels, figure out what your optimal strategy is for when these flights are, because you could save a huge amount of money this way. Another one is to add a long stopover in between. We call it like a little bonus vacation.
Yeah, we actually just did this in Bangkok, and we ended up with 4 days of fun in Bangkok.
Right, because we were traveling from Bali to Siem Reap, Cambodia. No direct flight. We looked at all the flights to see where they go through. Like I mentioned earlier, that can give you a starting point to look at one-way flights instead. So we did. They go through Bangkok. So I started playing around with the 2 one-ways through Bangkok, and it turned out that it was going to be much, much cheaper to fly on a different day of the week to Siem Reap from Bangkok. So we just turned it into a little trip, and we stayed in Bangkok 4 days, and we loved Bangkok. It was so
a
fun.
blast.
We actually also got our hotel free, which this is jumping ahead a little bit, but
Free is nice.
we stayed at a Holiday Inn, which was nothing like what I thought a Holiday Inn was like. This was more like a really like a West End or something.
Yeah,
it was a
really
nice
nice
hotel. So anyways, we can talk about that a little bit later in the video, how we stayed there for free.
Yeah.
But doing a stopover can really save you some money. So be flexible with that. And you can also use 2 different airlines on those 2 different legs that way. So that also might save you money if you're taking a more regional airline on the second leg.
Right. And this really works well when you're flying in and out of hubs. Is that right? So like Bangkok is a major airport.
Right. Usually your layover is going to be in a hub, a major city. And that is another strategy to get your major part of your trip from hub to hub, right? Because that's going to be cheaper because there's a lot more flights going that way. You can get a hopper flight closer, or you can take a train. You're going to want to price this out. But what I'm saying is a short local airline is going to probably be cheaper than taking a major airline from a small airport around.
Okay, so it's a good strategy to look into. One of the questions that always comes up with flights, is it better for a one-way or a round trip?
So that's an interesting question. It's not always one or the other. You have to price it out both ways to see. However, a lot of times round trip flights are cheaper. In fact, today, preparing for this, I just decided to randomly look up, I looked from London to Rome. And it turned out that it was $286 on British Airways for the cheapest flight. Could have gotten one way on British Airways and the other way on Aegean Airways, which is a little local airline, for $300. If I wanted to stick with British Airways and I picked the cheapest flight departing and the cheapest flight returning, that would have cost me $409. So that's a pretty big difference, $289 to $409.
Oh, yeah.
That round trip really saved money. So you've got to look at each one. Now, a strategy I use that kind of combines it. If the round trip is cheaper, but I'm really going like I need one ways, I'll try to figure out a way to loop it. For example, let me give you this trip. I'm also doing this in the US with some of our travel to our families. But anyways, on this trip that we're on, we flew from Bangkok to Siem Reap, Cambodia. We're here for 2 weeks. Now we're going to come back to Cambodia, but it's a 30-day visa, so we need to leave.
Right.
We're going to go back to Thailand. We're going to go to Koh Samui and Koh Tao. So we need to get from Bangkok to Koh Samui, the island, and we're going to stay there for 2 weeks, fly back to Bangkok, then fly back to Siem Reap, then fly down to Sihanoukville to get to this beach in southern Cambodia that we're going to stay for a month at. Okay, so from there we're flying on to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. So it doesn't have any bearing on this. Okay, but what I want to teach you about this is I ended up buying a one-way ticket for our first travel from Bangkok to Siem Reap.
Okay.
But since we're going from Siem Reap back to Bangkok, and then even though there's a bunch of time and flights in between, we're eventually going back from Bangkok to Siem Reap again, it was cheaper to buy that as a round trip ticket. I still needed to get to Koh Samui and from Bangkok to Koh Samui and back. So I was going to book that as a separate round trip ticket. And that would have all worked well, and I probably normally would have done that because it's on 2 separate airlines and it worked out best. But even as you're doing this, you have to think about things. And the way the timing worked out, the little local cheaper one to Koh Samui only could go at a certain time that only left us with an hour layover. And we knew we'd have to clear customs and everything in that time. Too risky because it's a different airline. Now, if you're booked on one airline all the way through and your first flight is delayed, they'll rebook you onto a later second leg if you missed it, right? But if you're on a different airline, you lost the money. Yeah, you're out of luck. So although it did cost us $200 more to stick with the same airline, we went ahead and did that in this case because of the time crunch.
Okay.
But just to show you what you could have saved, if the timing would have worked out better, I could have saved $200 by doing it as 2 round trip flights that kind of hook together as loops instead of all of this one-way travel, or booking it all as one entire trip with multiple stops.
Okay.
So just be flexible in that and the way you think about it. I do also want to point out that if you are hooking some loops together that actually do end up with you on the same airline for 2 legs on one day, but you feel it was a better deal to hook it together in a round trip loop with a different part of your trip, you still can attach those so that you have coverage in case the first one is delayed. But you do need to call the airline and say, I have this booking and this booking with you on this day. Could you please link my reservations? That way, if your reservations are linked, you will have some protection if that first flight has an issue and you can't make the second flight. But it only works if you're on the same airline.
Okay, sounds good. So that brings us to the tough question. How do we research flights? How do we find deals?
Do you want to mention some flight deal sites like The Flight Deal, Daily Drop, Dollar Flight Club? I mean, there's a whole bunch of them.
Okay.
Anyways, you can get emails and things like that. You can go to their website. You can set up alerts. So if you're not sure where you want to go, or you do know where you want to go, but you're not sure when you want to go and you have some flexibility, those are great sites to watch because they will show you airfares as well as extreme sale prices that they come across, things like that. So then you can jump right on that when you get a really, really great deal.
Yeah, flexibility is key.
Flexibility is key for that. Otherwise, when you're looking, as I said, you can use some of those major search engines. They will not only give you the calendar and the grid to look at the different price differences, but they will usually tell you if the flight is more expensive or less expensive than usual. And if it's more expensive, just wait.
Yeah.
Just wait, book it later. When you are looking at flights, really have in mind how much luggage you plan to take. If you're looking at Google Flights and it has that little picture of a suitcase crossed out, you better be flying with a backpack. Otherwise, you're out of luck. Don't book that flight. Now, also, even if you're looking at the ones that do allow luggage, there's a lot of difference between airlines. You can book a way cheaper flight, but then by the time you look at how much it's going to cost you to pick a seat, to add a carry-on, to add a checked bag, all of these things, you're now paying more than you would have paid on a more expensive flight that included all of those things. So I never book a flight without going to the website of the airline and checking exactly what is included in that flight and exactly what their luggage limitations are.
Remember, you don't want to be nickeled and dimed by these different airlines because they will.
Yeah, and if you are flying outside of the US, you need to be very aware of the luggage sizes and the luggage weight restrictions, because if this is your first time coming to someplace in Europe or Asia or Australia or practically anywhere in the world, and you think what you carry on and carry in the cabin and check is fine in the US, that is maybe not okay somewhere else. There are severe weight limitations.
Let's talk about VPNs.
A VPN is something that all travelers should have to protect their data on all their devices. When it comes to booking travel, having Surfshark or another VPN that is just an app on your phone, it's very easy. You just go in there, you change from where you're searching. Cyber News has done a study, and the cheapest cities to pretend you're in to book a flight are Mexico, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, India, Sri Lanka, New Zealand, and Hong Kong.
So
I can attest to this with New Zealand.
Yeah.
We've done that.
But she said which city you're in, it's which country you're in. Those are all countries, not
I'm
cities.
sorry.
That's okay.
Which country you're in. And it's not which country you're really in. It's which country the booking engine thinks you're in.
Correct.
Because you set your VPN to say you're in that country. Now, another way that this can help you is you can pretend to be in the country of origin that you're buying the ticket. Okay, so let's say you're flying from Bangkok, Thailand to Siem Reap, Cambodia. It might be cheaper if you buy the ticket from Thailand while you're there, right? So you pretend you're there. Or it might be cheaper if you buy it as though you're in Cambodia, even if you're not. So check those with a VPN, your origin country and your destination country.
Okay. Another thing that a VPN just does, and it's for your own safety and protection, when you're on these free Wi-Fi's, whether it be the airport or the local coffee shop, all of your information is encrypted, and that keeps anyone else from stealing your information while you're on that host Wi-Fi. Right. So it's just a real great protection for travelers.
And as you're using SIM cards too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
you want to be protected on all your data.
Moving on to the next topic. How can we stay at a good place cheaply?
All right. So first, we'll talk about points and credit cards because we get a lot of free travel that way. And I got a couple tips for you on these. So we also stay in a lot of other kinds of hotels and Airbnbs and Verbos, and we're going to get to that in a minute. But when you are booking accommodations, always first check what you've got in points and what you've got in free night stays. Because if you have a bunch of hotel branded credit cards, you're probably earning a free night stay. And that's what makes those credit card annual fees worth it. We have multiple Marriott cards. Those cards have a $99 fee, but we get a free night. And that usually, is worth far more than $100. So look at those nights first. Those nights expire. So if you need to stay someplace, you might want to first use that night, especially if you're booking a flight where you stay over a night in between. That's a great place to plug that in. The other thing is if you have points, you can actually get bonus free nights when you're booking with points at some hotels. So if you're in the IHG family of hotels, you have an IHG card. That's everything from Holiday Inn all the way up to Intercontinental and everything in between. It's a huge group of hotels. For every 3 nights you book with points, you get a 4th night free. So for instance, whenever we go home to Washington and we stay outside of Seattle, we stay at Staybridge Suites because we can stay there for like 2 weeks. It has a little kitchenette. It's practically like being in an Airbnb. You've got a couch, you've got a desk. It's very comfortable, more like an apartment. They have free laundry with tons of laundry machines. They have happy hour 3 nights a week where you get 2 free drinks and enough appetizers to be like dinner. And so we can stay very cheaply there. And IHG has fairly low point costs on their hotels compared to something like Hilton or Marriott. Okay, so that with every 4th night free, we can stay 2 weeks. Do pretty good. Yeah. Now, we don't always have enough points for that. We just bought a bunch of points, but IHG sells points at 80 to 100% off periodically. So we got them at 80% off. That still saved a fortune, probably half what it would have cost us to get an Airbnb for that amount of time. Now, Marriott and Hilton both have similar situations where if you're on points for 4 nights, you get the 5th night free. Also a good deal if you're going to stay at one of those. Marriott, you don't have to stay at an expensive Marriott. You can stay at a Courtyard or whatever. Okay, I promised I would tell you why Hyatt points are so valuable. First of all, they're a transfer partner of Chase, Sapphire, and also of Bilt, which has no annual fee.
Nice. That's
a good thing. But also, they don't need as many points as most hotel chains. So I just grabbed, we recently stayed at the Grand Hyatt in Nusa Dua, super upscale touristy area in Bali, right? Okay, it was a very nice resort. We got a club room, which you can also use points to get a club room, which is of great value. And a club room comes with, at that particular property, it comes with a private pool, not for just us, but for club room people. And it has a special kind of restaurant-y looking area where they have a happy hour every night for 2 hours with free drinks, like unlimited free drinks and heavy appetizers. We ate dinner there practically every night.
Absolutely.
They also have a huge breakfast that's delicious. And this can vary a little bit from Hyatt to Hyatt. You got to check what their club benefits are to see if it's worth it. But we were staying there cheaply, and just for this comparison, I just picked a random date and I looked up what the point value was. Okay, for a regular room, it would be $195 on this night that I chose, or 8,000 Hyatt points. That is not very many.
No.
To upgrade to the club room was 12,000 points with all those benefits.
Nice.
Now, if I stayed at a comparably priced, comparably equipped hotel at the Marriott Westin in Nusa Dua, it would have been $196 a night, almost the same price, or 35,000 points for that regular room.
Dang.
They don't even have a club option. That room doesn't even include breakfast.
Wow.
So you can see that not all points programs are created equally. If you have Chase points and you're transferring them to Hyatt, you're going to get 4 nights for the equivalent of transferring Chase points to Marriott for 1 night.
Wow.
That's an important thing.
Yeah,
right?
definitely something to look at.
A lot of people love Hyatt. That's why. I didn't even know about Hyatt until I got into the points game. Now we stay at Hyatt a lot.
There you go.
Okay, while we're on this, I also want to mention that some credit cards have property credits, and you might want to keep those in mind. Like if you have a Hyatt card, you have a $50 annual credit. Like we use this on tea in Sydney. That
It was a
really
gin
fun.
tea. Very
Yes.
nice.
You don't have to use it on booking a room. You can use it on other things, even if you're not staying there. Also, Hilton, if you have a Hilton business card, has $60 per quarter in credits. So if you have that card, maybe look up what the restrictions are that you can use those.
Absolutely.
But if it's available and convenient, you might want to use those.
Fine print always comes into play.
Yes.
Okay, so now let's ask the question. How do we do this without points?
And also, if you're in a place that doesn't have big chains that you can use points at, same thing. That's us, honestly, most of the time. So you have a couple choices. You can stay in hotels, or you can stay in vacation rentals like Airbnb or Vrbo. If you're staying in hotels, probably the biggest booking sites are booking.com, hotels.com, and expedia.com. So you have some choices here. First of all, if you do booking.com, it has these things called genius levels. So the more you stay, the bigger the discount you get. So you kind of want to stick with booking.com if that's what you're going to use, because the more you accumulate, the bigger your discounts, right? I normally use booking.com, but I also sometimes use Agoda, especially in more remote places. Sometimes I just can't find what I want on booking.com, and in Asia, Agoda will have something. Or I can't find something cheap enough on booking.com, Agoda will have it. Or I compare the same property, and sometimes Agoda has a whole bunch of coupons that they offer you when you sign on, or they have a special on that hotel, and so I can get the same hotel cheaper, or vice versa.
So what I just heard is that oftentimes you're going to find properties located on multiple sites.
Right, and that's the other thing. So while I do recommend kind of keeping like your loyalty, even though they don't have loyalty points, trying to maximize your discounts by whatever program they have that's kind of like a loyalty program, you should still compare, especially if you have a specific place you really want to stay. Compare. Hotels.com actually is looped in to a thing called One Key with Vrbo, which is kind of just like Airbnb, and Expedia. Those three all earn points in the One Key program. It's a free program. You sign up for it. It hooks you up on all those sites. They all earn combined points, but then you can use it, any one of them, as like travel cash.
Nice.
And so that could be a really good thing to get into. I actually even might switch to that at some point, but right now I'm kind of locked in on what I'm doing on booking.com.
Okay.
So anyways, that's one way. Also, as I said before, make sure you get cancelable things if you can, and then rebook if you can save money. That's why Vrbo is a good advantage, because Vrbo has much better cancellation policies than Airbnb and often lower cleaning fees. So we really like Vrbo a lot, and we've used it a lot, but compare with Airbnb. Now, if you're trying to compare on these sites, sometimes they're not called the same thing for the same property, but if you take a screenshot of like a photo at that property that's distinguishable and you reverse search it on Google, it'll pop up with that picture on multiple property booking sites. Sometimes even on a private property booking site, like for a real estate agency or something that also does those bookings. So I'm going to mention that right now, that is also another option. We've never done this, but our friend Chris Golick over at A Suitcase and a Smile. She does this all the time. She's an expert at finding local rental opportunities for like a month to 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
She actually just did an interview on Eat, Walk, Learn's YouTube channel with our other friends, Chris and Steve at Eat, Walk, Learn, and explained the whole thing of how she does it. So I'm just going to put a link down in the description of this video, and you can go watch that. If you're a nomad, that's a great way to save money. And also, house sitting is another way you can save money. Chris and Steve do a ton of house sitting, and that's also available on their channel once you find it. You do have to keep a couple things in mind. You know, houses are a little farther out of the main area a lot of the time. So, you know, how are you going to get there? And will you have enough time in between taking care of the pets you're taking care of and what have you? So those are some things, but they are ways to save money.
Yeah, and obviously those are things that we have not done.
We have not done those. So we're referring you to the experts.
Absolutely. So if I'm not using points and I'm just paying out of pocket, is there a good deal out there for me?
Sure. There's some great discounts that we can add on to whatever the discounts existing on the booking sites are. Your first step is to go to Rakuten and Retail Me Not. And if you don't find what you're looking for, start Googling, because there's a million coupon sites out there, but these I think are the two best. Okay, you want to go there and you want to look at whether or not you can get a promo code and or cash back for your booking site. So I'm just going to use hotels.com and booking.com as an example, but obviously there's other ones. So you can look those up, and ironically, if you're in a hurry to book and you can't wait till a good deal comes up on that site, usually one or the other, a booking.com or hotel.com usually has something, but they're not always at the same time. So say you're going to book on booking.com or on hotels.com using discounts from your coupon site. You want to sign up for the cash back, because a lot of times they'll have like 8% cash back, even more. Go through the cash back portal into your booking.com portal. While you were back on Retail Me Not, grab the promo code for the discount so that when you get to booking.com, you can pick the property that you had. Then in your checking out process, you're going to put in that promo code to save an extra however many %. Be sure you read the fine print on these. Sometimes there's a minimum amount that you have to be spending in order to get that. But if you meet all the criteria, you can save a lot. You can easily, combination of savings and cash back, easily save 10%, sometimes more. If you're booking on Vrbo or Airbnb, you can usually get a week discount, maybe even bigger for a 2-week discount, a lot for a month discount. Okay, so some properties offer it, some don't. Be sure you look, and you can ask. If they don't discount it enough, it doesn't hurt to just explain why and ask for a discount, right? So that's a good deal for those, the long-term discount. Now, like booking.com doesn't offer a long-term discount. There are some properties on Agoda that do, but basically when you're looking at hotels, you can find that hotel on the web usually. So for instance, we're going down to southern Cambodia onto a beach. I found a great resort. We really want to have a nice resort there, and we want to stay for a whole month. Well, we could not afford to stay there for a whole month. It was too expensive. So I wrote a note to them. I looked them up on their website, found the email, wrote a little letter explaining the whole thing. They actually gave us over half off and upgraded us to a nicer room and a free breakfast. So you can get that just by asking. Not everywhere, but it doesn't hurt to ask. I did the same thing for Vietnam. In Hoi An, I got a hotel, I asked for a discount, and I needed a nicer room so that it had a chair because we're staying for a month. Got it. Not as much of a discount, but I think it was about 30% or so.
Any discount is a discount.
Any discount is good, right? Now, another thing to think about when you're booking is your price for your accommodation is not the only consideration. You're going to be paying for food. So if you're going to stay for a period of time someplace that eating out is cheaper, like in Asia, that's fine. A hotel works great for long stays as long as it's comfortable enough for you. But if you're in somewhere more expensive, you're probably going to want something like a vacation rental if you're staying more than a few days, because you're going to want to be able to cook some of your meals to save money. Eating out gets really expensive in, say, Sydney. We were there, we knew. The other idea is, even with a hotel, with food, is if it has a refrigerator, you can always go to the store. We always do. We get a box of cereal, some milk, some bread and stuff to make sandwiches with. and we can have that in our room. We also buy our own beer and wine, so much cheaper than buying it in the hotel bar. We always carry a wine corker. There's ways to save money on all these things, and all of those costs make your vacation cheaper. One more thing on that, if you're eating in your room. So say you need bowls for the cereal, right? What you do is you order a bowl of soup from room service for dinner one night, and then you wash the bowl and stick it in a cupboard so the housekeeping doesn't take it. Same with silverware. Some hotels you can just ask and they'll give it to you, but not all. In that case, you can do that, or you can go to like a dollar store and just pick something up, or reuse a takeout container from something else that you bought.
Yeah, remember, you're doing this for 30 days. You know, you're here for a long period of time. So this is a cost-effective way.
Yeah, well, you could even do it for a week.
True.
We've done it for a week.
Yeah.
Many, many, many times.
So here's a thought. Do you just use one of these techniques, or do you try to really combine them to optimize your money you're saving?
Okay, so here's your bonus. This is called stacking. It sounds more complicated than it is. I already told you how you can go to like Retail Me Not and get a cash back that you stack with a promo code. Let's say it's for Agoda. Then you go to Agoda, you apply whatever coupons Agoda has. Different sites have different rules on how many things you can stack, but Agoda lets you stack better than most. Then you use a points earning card to preferably buy gift cards that you've gotten cheaper on like giftcards.com or whatever by also getting that deal through a coupon site like Rakuten or Retail Me Not, or maybe through AARP, something like that. And now you're getting a discount on the gift cards that you're going to use to pay for the booking that you already got all these discounts on and are getting cash back for. If you really want to go the extra mile, you use a credit card that gets really good points to buy the gift cards that you use to pay for your other travel. That's called stacking.
Wow.
Okay.
I think I need a piece of paper to write all of that down. There's got to be a simpler way.
I mean, it's not that hard.
Does this work on flights and everything else?
Not in the same way per se, although you can look up airlines on coupon sites. Sometimes you can find deals. But what you can also do is link your airline loyalty program to other loyalty programs. Like sometimes you can hook together a hotel and an airline, or even something like shopping. Like you can use for American Airlines, they have an Advantage e-shopping portal where everything you buy gives you more points on American Airlines. So like I used to get Walmart groceries delivered all the time. So I just ordered through the Advantage e-shopping portal and I got points on all of my Walmart orders. You can get it on other stores, you know, Target. You can get it on things like Uber. There's a lot of things you can hook those to. Capital One has a shopping portal you can just hook onto your browser and use. And all of those things are going to earn you points. For instance, if you're doing that on a Capital One browser, then you're earning points that then you can use to erase part of your purchase. So let's say you then also book a flight on your Capital One card and you've been earning all these points. Then on that flight, you have, let's say your flight's $400, but you've accumulated enough money to erase a $200 travel charge. So you can apply that against your $400 charge. Now you just got that flight basically for $200. So that's a way to save money on flights also. Also to look for web specials on airlines. Some of them have web specials that aren't necessarily showing up in the regular search. So maybe Google like American Airlines web specials or whatever airline you're on. Go to their web specials portal and see if you can work that into your flight and get it actually cheaper amount of points than you would have had to use, or like that. So it's kind of a little different thing. And you can Google ways to stack these. There's other strategies out there besides mine, but definitely consider that. Don't just use one method. Try to use as many as you can.
Mm-hmm. So now if I sat here and I looked at everything that you just told me, and I took good notes and I wrote it all down, and now I have 4 pages worth of things in my scribbly handwriting, that's a lot of work.
Okay, well, number one, let me tell you that I have the outline of this and all these points on our website. So I hope you weren't writing it down and you can find it. But if it seems like too much work, first of all, this This stuff doesn't take too much time once you've done it a few times, but it does take some time. So if you're just trying to book a hotel for one night, it's probably not worth it to go through a whole bunch of steps to do that. If you are trying to book a very cheap vacation or a cheap airline flight, it's not worth it to do all this, because it's the time value of your time versus the financial value of these discounts and cashbacks, okay? If it's one easy thing, just throw in the one easy thing. But you don't have to stack all these every time. I don't stack them every time.
Okay.
Sometimes I do. So the more the trip costs, the more you're trying to afford it. Now you're investing your time as money, right? Your time is worth money. And so you can basically be paying yourself in more vacation for the time that you spend. But I am going to say it's a balancing act. You have to look at it. You can use one thing, you can use two things, you can use 6 things. It just depends on the situation, and different strategies work better for different vacation scenarios. Depends where you're going, what you're doing, what kind of place you want to stay in. Now, let's say you just don't have a ton of time, you want something fast. I have a couple suggestions. You can get a travel agent. They tend to spend more than you want to spend, but you can get a travel agent. What did you say? I'm your travel agent? I am not a travel agent. Do not ask me for help. Or you can go to something like TravelZoo or applevacations.com. Those both often have really good deals on kind of pre-packaged trips. So we've used both of those. They're both good. You can even find things on Groupon. So you can find deals whether you want to put in the time or you want to be lazy. There's still deals out there for you. And we hope that you do find some deals and basically up your travel game.
Absolutely. Hey, I hope you found this to be enjoyable. I hope you found it, even more importantly,
helpful.
Helpful, yeah. I guess that's the word I'm really looking for. If you like the video, please subscribe. Give us a thumbs up.
Watch our other travel videos in this series. We'll pop them up. But
this is number 3 in the group, right?
Yeah, visit the website for more information on all of them. Please continue to taste life with us and to go taste it on your own.
Hey, life tastes so much better
when you're saving money.